Join us at Walters on Friday, October 4th for our end-of-season podcast party. The evening is scheduled from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
2-2 the count. The pitch, swing and a miss. Happ strikes out for the second time. Quite an inning for DJ Herz. 1-2-3 with a pair of strikeouts.
Now Barnes ready. The pitch swung on, hit in the air to left toward the line. On the run is Wood. He's not going to get there. It lands inside the line, a fair ball, and into the corner for extra bases. Scoring from third is Bethancourt. Dansby Swanson into second with his 20th double of the year. So the Cubs add to the lead with a fourth run home in the inning. It's now Chicago 4 and Washington 2.
0-1 on Bethancourt. The pitch is squibbed right on top of the plate. Picked up by Millas. He tags Bethancourt, then throws low to second, and it goes by Garcia into center. Corner around third, heads for home. Jacob Young's throw. He's safe, diving in.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Sunday, September 1st, 2024, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The big inning has been a big problem for the Nationals so far in this three-game series against the Chicago Cubs at Nationals Park. The Nats 7-6 loss to the Cubs on Friday evening featured the Nats allowing 7 runs in the top of the second. And Saturday, we had a 5-3 Nats loss to the Cubs in a game in which the Nats allowed 4 runs in the top of the fifth. The Nats for this regular season now 61 and 75. They, for the month of August, went 12 and 15. Coming up later in the show, a report on the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, from the voice of the Senators, Terry Byrom. We, in this Nats game on Saturday, had more impressive work from Dylan Cruz. We had a rough game for James Wood. We had more outs on the base paths by the Nats. And we had a tale of 2 games for DJ Herz. Mark, this really was something with Herz on Saturday. Dominant over the first 4 innings, and then everything fell apart in that 4-run fifth for the Cubs.
The irony to this, Al, is they all knew coming in that they were a little bit worried or interested to see how Herz's emotions would play. This is him starting against the team that traded him last summer, and they knew that there was going to be some extra emotion because of that. So I think the greater fear was how he would react in the first inning, of which he's had some trouble here the last few times out. He comes out in the first inning, he looks great. He retires the side on 11 pitches. He's pumping out 97 with his fastball, one of the hardest pitches he's thrown all year. He's hopping off the mound, fired up, and he was that guy for 4 innings. And it turns out that the problem wasn't how he was going to start the game, it was how he was going to finish it, because that 5th inning was a completely different pitcher out there. And kind of like Jake Irvin, it was a different inning, but kind of like Jake Irvin on Friday night, that 1 inning is what spoiled the entire game for them.
And the game, in a lot of ways, a perfect microcosm of Herz's season. At times outstanding, at times really bad. He, in this game, was both. Was something to see. So Herz in this game officially allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings, but this really was the ultimate tale of 2 outings in one game for Herz. He, over the first 4 innings, was outstanding. He tossed 4 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts versus no hits, 1 walk, and a balk. He was rolling. And then came the top of the 5th. He in that top of the fifth got charged with 4 runs. He in the inning gave up 3 singles and issued a walk. Also in the inning was a fielding error by center fielder Jacob Young. He botched the fielding of a 1-out first pitch single by the Cubs' number 9 batter, Christian Bethancourt. Not the last time in this game that the Nats would commit an error of something that came off the bat of Bethancourt. And that was it. Herz ended up only lasting for 4 2/3 innings. He, for the game, threw 87 pitches, 55 strikes, 32 balls. It just was remarkable. Over the first 4 innings, I'm saying to myself, man, we are going to be celebrating DJ Herz on the next installment of the podcast here. This is DJ Herz really cementing himself as the Nats' best starting pitcher right now, and everything changed in that 5th.
I was right there with you. I was in my head coming up with the article I was going to write, the lead to that story, and instead it wound up being a different kind of angle with it. But I think it is a good reminder, as you kind of pointed out, that at this point, this is kind of who DJ Herz is. You don't really know what you're going to get, not just start from start, but inning to inning. And you saw that, a perfect example of that in this game. Now, what happened in the 5th? He talked about not really having that put away pitch that he had earlier in the game, got to 2 strikes, got to some deep counts. There was a walk in there that was 8 pitches, so that was a long at bat. He felt like the hits, that there wasn't a whole lot of hard contact. And, I guess I get what he's saying, but the whole thing with him and with any young starter, and you saw it with Jake Irvin on Friday night, is when things start to go south, can you rein it back in and get out of it and minimize the damage? This was what we were talking about Mackenzie Gore for so much of last year. And really for the first half of this year, we said how good of a job he had done at overcoming that. And when things were going bad, didn't let it spiral out of control and still put together a decent start. And so for other young guys, this is the next step for them. And I think it especially applies to Herz, who is, as we said, an emotional guy out there. He's got the stuff. We can see that to be effective, but he's got to be able to rein it all in and not let things spiral when they start to go bad on him. The hope is he'll get there. I mean, 23 years old, the success he's had this year, it makes you intrigued and excited about the possibilities. And you've got to believe that it gets better from here. But that's still a critical next step for him to take and find a level of consistency that he hasn't quite shown yet.
Do you think he overexerted himself early in the game? He was so good. He was so fired up. He was striking out Cubs, it felt like, left and right. Do you think it's almost like he overdid it over those first 4 innings and then was out of gas in that 5th inning?
It could be. Yeah, it absolutely could be. And, what's interesting here is I said, they were worried about how he was going to handle the first inning, and he has had some rough first innings lately. But for the season, that's not his problem. Innings 1 through 3, his ERA is 2.82. Innings 4 through 6, it's now 6.31. So while he's had a couple of those really great starts, like the 13 strikeout game where he finished strong, for the most part, he's been better early on than late. And that can be a sign of fatigue. It can be a sign of just expending that energy, especially on a day when you've got a lot of emotion going out there. You want to believe these are all things that come with experience and that he will figure that out. But he wouldn't be the first starting pitcher that we've seen over the years to be good 1 time through the order, even 2 times through the order, and not be able to sustain it after that. That's what separates the really good ones from the ones who are 5 and divers or even end up as long men in the bullpen. And so that will be another important step for him to take, to learn how to have something left in the reserve to finish out a start. And, right now, they're even at his best, they're kind of limiting him to 5 innings. That's not going to cut it in the long run. Eventually, you've got to be able to get through the 6th and ideally beyond that on occasion.
Well, David Martinez in this game, for a second time in as many games in this series, used 5 relievers. The Nats do have some off days here lately. Had the off day on Thursday, have another off day on Monday. As yes, the Nats do not have a game on Labor Day this year. So this was an interesting game, I thought, with the bullpen. 5 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 1 run, which was unearned in 4 1/3 innings. That sounds good, and there certainly was some good stuff from the bullpen, but I actually didn't think that the bullpen was particularly good in this game. So Jacob Barnes faced 2 batters, got 1 out, came into the game top of the 5th, runner on 3rd, 2 outs. Nats trailing 3-2. Barnes to the first batter he faced gave up a 2-out RBI double by Dansby Swanson to left field for a 4-2 Cubs lead, but that run went on the account of the Nats starting pitcher, DJ Herz. Then we had Robert Garcia. He allowed 1 run, which was unearned in 2 innings. He tossed a perfect top of the 6th. In the top of the 7th, allowed an unearned run on a leadoff single by Nico Horner to left field on an 0-2 pitch, as we in this game had a number of hits on 0-2 pitches. It was kind of odd. And then came a 1-out throwing error by the Nats starting catcher in this game, Drew Millas. He on a tapper off the bat of the aforementioned Christian Bethancourt retrieved the ball, ran towards second base, seemed unsure of himself, and then made a poor one-hop throw to second baseman Luis Garcia Jr., allowing Horner to score. Then we had Eduardo Salazar. He in the top of the 8th faced 4 batters, but got just 2 outs. He gave up a 1-out single, issued a 2-out hit by pitch. Then we had Joe LaSorsa. He faced 1 batter, gave up a single, but was officially credited with tossing a third of a scoreless inning. Why? Dylan Cruz is why. So LaSorsa came into the game top of the 8th, runners on first and second, 2 outs, Nats down 5-3. LaSorsa to the first batter he faced gave up a 2-out single by Michael Busch to right field on an 0-2 pitch, but right fielder Dylan Cruz threw out Seiya Suzuki at home for the 3rd out, the first Major League regular season assist for Dylan Cruz. And then the man who gave the Nats their best outing from a reliever in this game ended up being Tanner Rainey. He tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts. So a lot to process with the bullpen. Bad defense with Millas, good defense via that outfield assist from Dylan Cruz.
So the Cruz throw, I had to look this up twice to say, wait, is that actually true? 96.5 miles an hour from him in right field. That's a major league fastball, a good one that he's throwing from right field, and had the command of a good pitcher. That was perfect. And I mean, I know he struck out again in the 9th inning. I know he struck out to end the game on Friday night, but just stop here and consider that in 5 games so far, he's reached base in all 5, hit a couple home runs. He's run the bases well. He's played defense well. This is a guy, as we've talked about, who's just going to do everything well in the long run. He's not going to be perfect. Nobody is. But 5 games into his big league career, we've seen pretty much everything from him already. And boy, is that exciting to think about. As far as the Millas play, I couldn't help but think of this. We've talked about Alex Avila on this show, and probably the thing we remember most about him was the infamous straining of both calf muscles while playing second base in an emergency. But the second thing that we talked most about him, if you can remember back to a game in Philadelphia, critical spot in the 9th inning, and he's in a situation where as the catcher, he's got a guy in a rundown between second and third. And he executed it perfectly to end the game. And how did he do it? Without ever throwing the ball, he just ran at the guy and kept running until he tagged him out. And if Drew Millas could have this one over, that would be the way to approach it. You may not make it all the way to him to tag him out, but anytime you have a chance in a rundown, run at the base runner, make him commit, and then once he commits, make your throw. He had more time to do that. Instead, he made an off-balance throw to second base that wasn't any good. He knew it. He admitted it afterwards. But chalk that up to another one of these moments where you've got a young rookie out there, a big moment in a game, and it does seem like it speeds up on them sometimes. And do you just accept that that's going to happen with rookies? Maybe. You hope that it gets better, but it can be frustrating when you're losing tight games because of mistakes like that are avoidable.
Drew Millas is supposed to be a defense-first catcher. His defense at the major league level this season has not been overly impressive, and we know how seemingly reluctant Davey Martinez is to play catchers not named Keibert Ruiz. An error like that is not going to do Millas any favors. Now, Millas, to his credit, did have a couple of hits in this game. He was the Nats' number 8 batter. He went 2 for 4 with a couple of singles. Bottom of the 2nd, 2-out opposite field single to left field on an 0-2 pitch. And Millas, in the bottom of the 9th, had a went-out first pitch single to right field.
Hey, Nats Chat, want to tell you about Mint Mobile's premium wireless package starting at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/natschat. That's mintmobile.com/natschat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/natschat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
This podcast is supported by IPVanish VPN. If you care about the security of your online activity, the easiest way to protect yourself is with IPVanish. With a rating of excellent on Trustpilot, IPVanish provides an encrypted connection for all your internet traffic, helping to prevent websites, Wi-Fi providers, and hackers from intercepting your data. Help keep your financial details, personal information, and online activity safe from threats with IPVanish. Get started with this limited time offer and save 83% on your 2-year subscription. Visit ipvanish.com/bluewire. That's ipvanish.com/bluewire.
Check of the runners first and second. Holding the clock down at 2. He delivers. Swinging a line drive to right. That's a base hit. One up in front of Cruz. They're going to wave the runner. Suzuki toward the plate. The throw into Millas. The tag. And he is out at the plate. And the inning is over. Dylan Cruz guns down his first runner in the major leagues. Drew Millas with a tag to put the finishing touches on it. And Suzuki out at the plate after the base hit. Score it 9-2. A 2-hopper. It was perfect.
With Dylan Cruz, so he again was the Nats' number one batter. He had one hit. Was a single, not a home run in this game, but cruising going 1 for 5. Bottom of the 7th, 2-out single up the middle on a 1-2 pitch. The single per StatCast exit velocity of 104.4 miles per hour, 4th highest exit velocity of the game. He, for the game, had 2 of the Nats' top 4 exit velocities, so continuing to hit balls hard. Now, when it comes to another Nationals player who is very well regarded and who has been hitting balls hard, James Wood. So he in this game as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 0 for 4 with a walk, but also 4 strikeouts. So he does get on base again. He's getting on base, it feels like, every game at least once. Bottom of the 3rd, he drew a 1-out 6-pitch walk, but 4 strikeouts for James Wood. What'd you see from him in this game?
4 strikeouts and 3 of them looking. Now, one of those was a Laz Diaz special, and there's nothing you can do about that. And welcome to the big leagues, James Wood. But both in this game and in a broader sense, we have seen that this is a guy who's very patient at the plate, is not afraid to take borderline pitches. And for a 21-year-old, that's a great trait to have. I'd rather have that than the opposite, the guy who swings at everything no matter where it is. But it does come back to haunt you sometimes when you are too passive at the plate. And I think we're seeing that with him a little bit, especially that in the 9th inning. He took a breaking ball right over the plate to end the game with a chance to do something big. And again, I think he'll learn. He's got 2 months in the big leagues, and we're expecting him to have the batting eye of Juan Soto, who had a very good eye as a rookie as well, but has gotten even better over time. So you don't want to lose that eye, the willingness to be patient. But especially when you get to 2 strikes, if it's borderline, if it's close, you got to be ready. You've got to be thinking hit over walk. He is not a guy they want walking with runners on base. He's a guy they want driving in runners when he gets into that situation, especially in the 9th inning when one hit could tie the game and turn everything around for you. So I'm going to chalk it up to a 21-year-old who's still learning at the big league level. But while it's a good trait to have, I think he's a little too good at it and needs to start learning how to be a bit more aggressive, especially with 2 strikes.
Yeah, James Wood, since being promoted to the majors, 224 plate appearances, 67 strikeouts. Now, he has drawn 28 walks, but that strikeout total is quite high. The Nats overall offensively in this 5-3 loss to the Cubs on Saturday, 3 runs, 10 hits. The Nats actually out-hit the Cubs in this game 10-7. The Nats had a home run, a double, and 8 singles. Drew 4 walks, but went 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position and had multiple more outs on the base paths. Here we go again. So Jose Tena, first of all, Tena offensively in this game overall was a big-time plus. He got on base 4 times. He is the Nats starting 3rd baseman, and number 5 batter went 3 for 3 with 3 singles and a walk. Among those singles was a leadoff opposite field single to the left center field gap in the bottom of the 6th. But Tena then was thrown out in his attempt to advance to second base as Cubs center fielder Pete Crow Armstrong retrieved the ball and made a terrific play, a spinning throw to Cubs second baseman Nico Horner, who himself made a terrific play, a diving tag for the putout. And then moments later in that inning, C.J. Abrams, who for this game was the Nats starting shortstop and number 6 batter, off for Friday evening being the Nats number 7 batter. Abrams, bottom of the 6th, a single into center field, so good to see that. but he then got thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Abrams now for this regular season, just 27 for 39 on stolen bases. He has been thrown out on attempted steals way too much. But how about that bottom of the sixth? First, what happened with Tena, then what happened with Abrams, and that sound you heard across the Washington, D.C. area was Nats fans collectively screaming, "Here we go again," with more outs on the base paths by this team.
Oh, and believe me, I can hear it, whether it's through my ears or with my eyes as I check my Twitter mentions, as these things tend to happen. Look, we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I don't know there's a whole lot of new ground to cover here, but specifically to these two plays. It was admittedly a great play by Crow Armstrong, and as you said, the tag on the Tena play. So it did take one of those perfect execution by the opposition to get him out on that one. And on the stolen base by Abrams, or lack of stolen base, I think he was safe and then overslid the bag, didn't hold the bag. And so I think if he pulls that off a little better, we're talking about a stolen base and maybe a better situation. But it just keeps striking you how it's not that they're making outs on the bases, it's when they're making outs on the bases. You're down a run at that point. It's the sixth inning. You have a chance to come back, and you're giving away outs. And Davey Martinez got a little defensive about this in his post-game press conference. You said people are always talking about our base running. Nobody talks about the days that we steal six bases. Seems like everybody talks about when we don't make it. It's a little defensive there. He says we're aggressive. That's the way we play. Sometimes we're going to win that battle. Sometimes we're going to lose that battle. Look, they lead the majors in stolen bases, and they lead the majors by a wide margin in caught stealing, and we haven't even gotten to outs on the bases just made, in trying to advance kind of thing. As frustrated as everyone is, and believe me, I get frustrated watching it too, they're not going to change their style. Their feeling is this is who we need to be, and it is up to the players to be better at it. Agree with that, disagree with it. That is their philosophy. That's who they believe they're going to be.
So there are a few things with this that strike me. Number one, this is a function of them not hitting home runs. And this is actually another consequence of them being so bad at hitting home runs. If they weren't so bad at hitting homers, they wouldn't have to be like this, uber aggressive, overly aggressive on the base paths. So you see sort of a domino effect here of it's not just when you don't hit home runs, you don't hit home runs, you don't score runs via homering. It's that you also feel compelled to do things that are probably outside of your nature. And them being this aggressive on the base paths, whether they want to admit it or not, is outside of their nature. It's outside of their capability, and we're seeing that as this season progresses. Another thing is, the Nats do get credit when they do good base running. I mean, I think we do that on this podcast. But they have too many egregious outs on the base paths. Like, it's not just that they make outs on the base paths. It's A, that they do it seemingly every game. And B, some of these really strike you as avoidable and as clumsy and as just amateur hour type stuff. I mean, what happened in Game 3 against the Yankees should never happen. And yet that did happen. The third thing is this. I've heard Davey talk about we're a young team. We're going to make these kind of mistakes. It's not just the young players who've made the base running mistakes. First of all, the base running mistakes go back multiple seasons. They have been made by veterans too. It's not just a young player thing. Right now, the Nats have a lot of young players, but there have been plenty of instances over these last few years that we've talked about older players making outs on the base pass. That's a very convenient excuse, and it sounds good. It's a nice narrative to put out there. Well, we're young, we're learning and growing. There's some truth to that. That doesn't entirely explain this, and I'm a little bothered at the lack of ownership of the problem, of acknowledging of the problem. To me, you want to hear your manager say, yeah, this is unacceptable. We have to be better at this. And it starts with me. Like, that to me is what you say. When you get defensive, that sort of reeks of you're not admitting that there's a problem. And as we all know, if you don't admit that there's a problem, it's hard to solve a problem.
And I think especially in his case, when you have the job security that he does, I think it gives you some leeway to be able to take responsibility for some things. If you have a manager who's on the hot seat and they start taking accountability and saying, oh, blame me for our poor play, well, you're just giving the GM and the owner reason to blame you at the end of the season. But Davey signed for next year. And so if ever there was a time to take that kind of approach, I think this would actually be it, both him and his coaching staff, who they've already signed for next year, as we've discussed many times here. So that is interesting. And yes, on a young team, you expect some mistakes. You also expect improvement. And I think that's the biggest thing. If this had gone on the first half of the year, but had gotten better, you'd say, okay, we're seeing signs of improvement. The young guys are learning. The coaching staff is doing a good job of helping them address these issues. But it's not. It's gotten worse, as we've discussed. Now, some of these are new players who just got here and maybe weren't here in the first half of the year, but a lot of them have been here for a while. And as you said, some of these are not rookies. Some of these have been here for quite a while. So, yeah, you put that all together and there should be better results. And there should be, I think, a better response, an explanation for when this does come up and not a passing of the buck, which it does feel like at times has been the case.
So I don't want to just gloss over what Jose Tena did in this game. Like I said, he got on base 4 times. He and the Nats, 1 run second, had a first pitch single up the middle. Bottom of the 4th, a single to right center field on a 1-2 pitch. We outlined what happened in the bottom of the 6th, and Tena in the bottom of the 8th drew a 2-out, 4-pitch walk. Saturday marked 3 weeks since the Nats announced having recalled Tena from AAA Rochester. He, during his time at the major league level for the Nats, has been extremely productive offensively. And this has really been a big-time bonus for them these last 3 weeks. His OPS now, 893. Batting average, 362. On base percentage, 393. Slugging percentage of 500. The Nats have gotten decent production from, guys like Juan Yepes and also Andres Chaparro, who, by the way, homered in this game. Good to see that. Chaparro in this game in the Nats 1-run 4th, leadoff homer to left field for a 2-0 lead. Chaparro was the Nats DH and number 4 batter for this game. But man, Jose Tena over these last 3 weeks, very productive for the Nats.
He hits the ball hard, and that's both versus righties and lefties and in any kind of situation. We've seen him deliver in big spots. We've seen him deliver in non-high leverage spots. It's really been a revelation. You say, is this going to keep up if he stays up here? I don't know. But the position they're in right now, there's every reason to keep putting him out there and finding out what you have. And as we've said, it could provide you some leeway with Brady House to take your time with him and not force that issue because you've got clearly a decent fallback option in Tena. And I think the defense is getting a little better too. That was kind of an issue there the first few weeks. I feel like lately, it's been more solid. The other thing I just can't help but thinking about, who we haven't talked about in a long time is Trey Lipscomb. And you wonder, is there still an opportunity for him? And what would it be? Somebody who was so highly talked about out of spring training, who we thought might be their second baseman, didn't get that job, wound up playing a lot of third base when Nick Senzel was hurt and then ultimately released and just didn't do anything with it, was sent back to AAA. And now you've got another kid coming up and actually hitting at this level with the top prospect still waiting in the wings. Where does Trey Lipscomb fit into any of this down the road? Might he have missed his opportunity? You don't know. There's a long way to go, both this year and next year. But he's kind of forgotten man all of a sudden because of what Tena has done in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that combination of Garcia being so good this season and Lipscomb offensively being so bad at the major league level might have been lethal. It'd be one thing if only one of those things was the case, like Garcia was really good, but also Lipscomb was good, or Garcia was bad and Lipscomb was bad. But like the fact that both were the case, Garcia so good, Lipscomb so bad, and now Tena doing what he's doing, that's a bad concoction for Trey Lipscomb. But we'll see. A few years ago, we were talking the same way about Luis Garcia Jr. Like, is this guy, he keeps being optioned up and down, and when he plays in the majors, he's not particularly good. And, the Nats don't seem to be in love with the guy. And here we are now a few years later, and he looks like he's the Nats' second baseman moving forward.
For those interested in learning a new language, whether it be Spanish, French, or something else, check out Babbel. Babbel's 10-minute lessons are quick and handcrafted by over 200 language experts, ready to get you talking about your new language in just 3 weeks, because talking is the key to really knowing any language. Designed by real people for having real conversations, Babbel gets you talking. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee, so no pressure. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners right now. Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for Nats Chat listeners at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off babbel.com/natschat. Spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
On Labor Day night, Walters is the spot for disappointed Florida State fans to watch their team bounce back against Boston College. Walters will be open through the entire game.
Tim Shover is here to tell you about Game Time. Shows this September at the Anthem in D.C. include Kings of Leon, Ringo Starr, and Weezer. If you're interested in finding tickets to any of these shows, make sure to check out the Game Time app. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
An open stance, deep in the box, off the plate. The kick, and here it comes. Breaking ball, strike 3 called, and the game is over. So got in the head that time. He did not swing the bat. And a called strike 3 on the Porter Hodge slider, which turned out to be the big pitch in the inning, not his big fastball.
I do want to salute Jacob Young. Jacob Young in this game as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. He did commit that fielding error in the Cubs' 4-run fifth, but Young in the Nats' 1-run fifth, leadoff double off the left center field warning track on an 0-2 pitch, and Young in the bottom of the 9th drew a 1-out 4-pitch walk. Jacob Young on Saturday concluded in August, for which he had an OPS of 749. He had a very good month offensively. We know about the defense. We know about the base running. This was one of the sneaky, encouraging developments of the last 31 days. Jacob Young hitting as he did, hitting for power. It wasn't just a bunch of cheap singles. Like, he hit for some power in this month of August. Very nice to see Jacob Young do this.
It's a great point because we've talked about how he's already establishing that defensively he can play up here with the best of them. And the only question is going to be, can he hit enough? And while the season totals maybe still don't look anything great, the improvement there has been noticeable, and just giving them decent, good quality at bats, coming through for them, running the base as well as he does. More and more you see a path to him sticking as their center fielder, even if he is just a number 9 hitter, if they have enough else offense up there. And as we've said before, you can go into this all thinking you know who the centerpieces are, who the building blocks are. Sometimes that turns out to be what you believe, and sometimes it does not, both because guys who were supposed to be part of it are not, but also guys who were not supposed to be part of it step up and do it. And right now, he's high on that list of guys who maybe were not being counted on in this kind of role, and he has seized his opportunity and saying, hey, I don't care what other outfielders you have in this farm system, I'm your center fielder now for years to come.
So Sunday is September 1st. That means that each MLB team can expand its Major League active roster from 26 to 28 players. And we on Saturday had multiple reports, including one from our friend Mark Zuckerman, that the Nats are going to be promoting Darren Baker to the majors. Darren Baker, son of former Nats manager, son of former Cubs manager, Dusty Baker. The Nats took Darren Baker in the 10th round of the 2021 MLB draft out of the University of California, Berkeley. And the rumor is that Dusty will be in the house on Sunday afternoon. Is that correct?
I believe he's expected to be here for it. And what a moment for Dusty. And really for the whole baseball world. It's such a unique situation here. It's been 22 years, but the whole baseball world knew who Darren Baker was in October of 2002 when he was a 3-year-old bat boy for the Giants. I was there at that World Series in Anaheim, a young Cub reporter myself.
Thank goodness that JT Snow was aware and got Darren Baker out of the way. Goodness.
And saw JT Snow save Darren's life before he got barreled over at the plate. And for a lot of people who've been around the game or just followed the game for the last 20 plus years, the idea that that little kid is about to be a big leaguer for the first time is so mind-blowing. Now, we here have seen Darren up close, so we kind of know already who he is beyond that little kid. He was around a lot when Dusty managed here. And then obviously once they drafted him, we'd see him in spring training and follow his minor league career. He's done a good job given who he is. This is not a top prospect. This is not a physically big guy, even the way that that Dusty was. He's a small, thin kid who's already 25 years old, but he's hit well in the minor leagues. He's played mostly second base, but also some in the outfield. He does not hit for power. That's not who he is. But he's getting his chance. And I think for a lot of people, while that may come across as nepotism or ceremonial to give him a shot to play in the big leagues, this is going to mean a lot to a lot of people to see him in the big leagues and to see Dusty back here with a chance to see his son. It's going to be a special moment. I don't know how much he's going to play. Garcia is clearly the second baseman, and he sits against lefties, but Darren bats left-handed. So I don't think there's a platoon situation for him. I don't know how much playing opportunity there's going to be for him, but just to be in the big leagues is a pretty cool story.
I did want to ask this, and good for Darren Baker for getting promoted. But like I said, 10th round pick in 2021, age 25 season. If you look at the MLB pipeline rankings of the top 30 Nationals prospects, Darren Baker's not among the top 30. And you mentioned him not hitting for power. His slugging percentage for AAA Rochester this season is .340. His OPS is .688. His numbers do not scream promote me. Now, he does have a good on-base percentage, .348. Give him credit for that. But I guess I'll ask it like this. Why exactly is he getting promoted and not somebody else? And I'm not trying to ask this in a harsh, mean way. I mean, I think I'm speaking for a lot of Nats fans here. Like, why him and not someone else whose performance would command being promoted more so than Darren's performance seemingly is commanding?
So what I would say is this. Let's remember that you call up a guy on September 1st. It doesn't mean that that's the only move you make all month. The way that the expanded rosters work now, you only get two of them, one position player and one pitcher. But the AAA season will continue all the way through to the end. And so you can still make moves up and down between now and then. So there could be more moves to come along the way. And it doesn't mean he's guaranteed to be here for all of September. We'll see how it goes with him. So number one, that. Number two, personally, I thought if his time was ever going to come, it was going to be late last season. If you remember, Luis Garcia was sent down to AAA in, I think, August at some point when he was really struggling. And Darren was hitting really well at that time. And the thought was, oh, wait, this might be it. This might be a shot. And they didn't even replace Garcia with another second baseman. They just had Ildemaro Vargas take over as a second baseman. So why now all of a sudden is that the move? A little bit curious. He has been playing better lately. Baker has got a long on-base streak going, I think. So there is that. But let's be honest, sometimes it's not just about performance. It's about name recognition. It's about doing something that's going to generate some interest and be a nice thing for a lot of people. I don't think this should be taken as he is viewed more favorably than other higher ranked prospects in the minor leagues. I think they're doing a nice thing for him and for Dusty and for the fans, but we'll see how it goes. Again, I don't see where a lot of playing time is going to come from. I'm not sure how you find ways to get him into games.
Yeah, you just wonder if his last name wasn't Baker, if his last name was Smith or, Feinstein, would he be being promoted to the majors? And if the answer is no, then I think you have to ask the question, well, then why exactly is he being promoted to the majors? But we're not mind readers. We don't know exactly why he's being promoted to the majors. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. The Nats on Sunday afternoon going to be trying to avoid a 3-game sweep to the Cubs. A Game 3 Sunday afternoon, 1:35. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can buy a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast, and we leave you now with the voice of the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, Terry Byrom, with this update on the Senators.
After play Friday night, the Harrisburg Senators fall to 60-64. However, they are 38-25 at home, a terrific home record at FNB Field. And while the 60-64 record doesn't sound all that great, this year the Harrisburg Senators, the AA affiliate of the Nationals, have sent 9 pitchers to AAA and 3 position players, Dylan Cruz, Brady House, and Andrew Pinckney. So a pretty successful season in development for the Senators, with Dylan Cruz now having a big first week in the big leagues. Brady House and Andrew Pinckney doing well in AAA. Still in Harrisburg, taking a look at some of the action and some of the players over the last couple of weeks. Yoandy Morales has played in 20 games since being activated from the injured list, and he has hit 3 home runs and looking good at home plate. Over the last 13 games, CJ Stubbs is hitting .308 with a couple of home runs. Cortland Lawson and JT Arruda have been on fire. Cortland Lawson hitting .307 with 10 RBIs, and he has scored 14 runs in 22 games in August. And JT Arruda has 3 home runs in the last couple of weeks and has 14 RBIs. Michael Cuevas, a starter for his career over the last month and a half, he has transitioned into being a reliever. And Cuevas, still just 22 years old, has appeared in 11 games as a reliever, has 2 saves, and a 3.31 ERA. The Senators still have 14 games remaining in this 2024 AA season.
2 balls, no strikes. Here's the 2-0 pitch line. It's a base hit into center field. Cook is up with it around third. Hitting home is Hassel. The throw, the slide. He's safe. He's around the tag. James Wood hits another rocket, 114 miles an hour into center field.